Review as well, Flo Villamino.
Hi
there. The newspapers have been following this story very closely, haven't they?
That's right. Now, of course, the papers came out before that deal was confirmed, but of course there were all these rumors that it was going to be confirmed. So it is front page news today. First of all, Les Echos, the business paper, it's talking about how Alcatel-Lucent is selling itself to Nokia to save its destiny. Now, Alcatel-Lucent is what French people call le fleuron de l'industrie. It's a French jewel, if you will, of France's industry. Real feeling of regret, actually, in Le Figaro today. They talk about how Alcatel, with Alcatel being sold off, France is once again losing one of its industrial jewels. A page of France's history of capitalism is turning. That's what Le Figaro says today in its editorial.
It's interesting, actually, to look at some of the details of this deal, which are still coming through as we're talking about it. The new company will be called Nokia Corporation. The headquarters is going to be in Finland, where Nokia is based now. They say there'll be a strong presence in France. But as you say, the headquarters of what is Alcatel-Lucent at the moment, the headquarters of that company will now be based in Finland.
That's right. It's a very symbolic change that I guess a lot of, well, Le Figaro especially regrets today.
Indeed. And Stephen, you were just telling us before that a big worry has been about job losses here in France. If the headquarters are indeed going to be purely in Finland, people legitimately asking questions there about the French government's involvement in this. Have they been protecting this company? And they have stepped in on other occasions to block takeovers.
That's right. That's what's interesting, is that the French government does have a history of intervening in these cases of takeovers of its jewels of the French industry, but not this time. And as Stephen was saying, the French government actually kind of rolled out the carpet for this deal to go through. Why is that? Well, Les Echos takes a closer look in its editorial today and says that France is actually facing its decline. The truth is that France and Finland actually are facing intense competition, as Stephen was saying, from Chinese telecommunications, especially, which Les Echos actually talks about the Chinese steamrollers. So this merger deal, or a marriage, as it's being called in the French press, is actually unavoidable for both Alcatel-Lucent and Nokia if they want to remain relevant on the market. No, and that is why the government is so eager to support this deal. It basically wants to preserve jobs here in France, and Les Echos applauds this move and says it's better to do that than to fight a losing battle and face a very long and painful death.
Can the government actually guarantee, though, that there will be no redundancies here in France? What's said before a deal and what happens afterwards can be two very different things, can't they?
Well, Le Parisien is reporting that the government has received commitments from Nokia that there will be no major redundancies here in France. But Aujourd'hui en France, Le Parisien says this is something that we've heard before, and employees aren't so confident. There are a lot of rumors circulating that there will be a major redundancy plan, and Aujourd'hui en France points out that in the past couple of years, other French industrial jewels have been sold off to foreign companies for better or for worse, and Aujourd'hui en France says often for worse.
Indeed.
It's interesting, the company is saying that they're going to save around 900 million euros a year on cost savings by bringing those two companies together. Of course, that's not necessarily going to be staff. We don't have any details yet about what's going to happen to jobs, but obviously the Nokia will have been very conscious in making this deal to keep those promises that they've made to the French government in terms of job numbers. But always in these questions, it's how long those commitments last for and what might happen over the progression of the company as they move together.
And with France's unemployment picture, it certainly doesn't need more redundancies, does it? Well, while Alcatel-Lucent is going off to Finland, we have the president going off to Switzerland. Completely unrelated story.
Completely unrelated story, but also a big story in the press today. You can read about it in Aujourd'hui en France. This is a two-day trip, and according to the Élysée, one of the purposes of this trip is for Hollande to assess positive progress that's been made in the fight against tax evasion. You can see the headline here. It says that Hollande is managing to pierce a little hole into the Swiss safety deposit box. Now, Hollande is going to encourage Swiss banks to continue to encourage their clients to get in line with the French law. One interesting thing that we've been reporting about a lot is French tax repentance, as they're called. Basically, people who get back in line with the French law. This has brought about 1.9 billion euros to the French government last year. Could bring up to 2.2 billion euros to the government this year. So it's a pretty sum, but just a drop in the water, according to Aujourd'hui en France. It estimates that there are about 80,000 undeclared bank accounts that belong to French nationals in Switzerland, and that adds up to about 100 billion euros. So François Hollande has some work to do.
He certainly does. Well, let's move on from all of these economic and financial matters and talk about football.
That's right. There is a big match today. I don't know if you're aware of this.
I'm well aware,
If
yes.
you've been
calendar.
in France, everyone is talking about this game. So this is Paris Saint-Germain. It's going to take on Barcelona in the first leg of their Champions League quarterfinal. And you can see it's a major story in the French press. Aujourd'hui en France, talking about the fact that it is time to dream. And you can see Javier Pastore there, who's going to be taking on Lionel Messi there. He's going to have to outdo himself. That's what Le Parisien says, because Messi and his football friends are in top form. L'Équipe, Sports Daily, also a big story, of course, for them. This is the moment of truth for Paris Saint-Germain. It's going to be a tough game for the PSG and has all sorts of pre-game analysis if you're interested, including 10 lessons for the PSG if they want to beat Barcelona. So I hope that PSG players are actually going to read L'Équipe today to get some tips. And 20 Minutes finally calls on people to tune in. And you can see here, it says, Paris vaut bien une liesse. Paris deserves a jubilant crowd. And 20 Minutes points out that French people love to hate the Paris Saint-Germain. But tonight, the Parisian club needs all the support it can get. So tune into that game if you're interested. I know that I will be.
Indeed. And who's your money on, or are we not allowed to ask?
I am definitely putting my money on PSG.
Very loyal. Thanks very much, Flo Villamino, with that look through the papers. Also, our business editor, Stephen Carroll, for telling us about that breaking news about the Nokia Alcatel-Lucent deal.